What is going on, guys? I'm back at another video. It's your boy, Shooters Gamer here. Hope you guys had a good day so far. Don't forget to check out my previous videos and stay tuned. Smash that like button. Also, turn on post notifications so you'll be notified. And yeah, let's get to it. By Mr. Nightmare. So let's get it. It's called Forrest Horror Story. You know it's already sus. Let's get it.
This happened about 2 years ago. I was out for a long walk in the woods, an activity I frequently do, especially in the summertime. On this day, I had set out early. The route I typically take is in a large woodland with many different paths that take you deeper and deeper in. This time specifically, I decided to make a bit of a change to my usual routine. I decided to walk down a bank in order to walk alongside a river. You could catch glimpses of it if you were higher up on the path, but for the most part, you could really only hear it. It was also much more remote when compared to the other paths. I had been out for 3 hours at this point. I had a book, food and drink, and a first aid kit in my bag. I had walked far and kept walking, exploring the area. However, I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. I tried to ignore it, but it was intense. I'm usually one for the quiet outdoors and nature, but this feeling I had kept making me look behind me, to the point where I was no longer relaxed. As I got deeper into the woods, the loneliness became unnerving. I figured I was just scaring myself and tried not to play into it. That's when a cloaked figure with gloves on ran out in front of me. I instantly jumped and felt extremely alarmed. The figure had a mask on, a crow's mask.
I mean, you went too far anyway. At a certain point, you'd be like, you know what, I'm getting too far, let me turn back. But you went so deep into the wood. And what is he doing in the woods with a crow mask on? Like, come on now. You would think to yourself, let me not go too far.
Mask, like think a plague doctor mask. I wanted to run, and everything inside me was telling me to run. But for whatever reason, I really wanted to seem like I wasn't bothered, and that the figure had failed to cause much of a reaction. So I awkwardly said,
Okay, good one. I'll be on my way now.
The figure didn't say anything.
See,
Rather, it began tilting its head as I walked around it and continued down the path. It was just standing there, watching me. I was extremely creeped out. Once I walked past it, I just kept walking, feeling shaken, but trying not to let it show. I was nervous to look back, but eventually I did. The creepy figure was stood in the same place, still watching me walk away. He, or possibly she, gave me a wave, but not a friendly one, just a sinister one. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was slow and felt threatening. I was stupid at this point. I felt far enough away from the figure, so I flipped at the bird, a choice I instantly regretted. The figure went from standing and waving to a full-on unhinged run in my direction.
oh no.
I, at this point, didn't stick around and legged it out of there. The figure was making intense, loud, and almost demonic noises as it chased me. I honestly thought I was going to die. But it all came to an end when I managed to outrun this freak and made it up onto an open footpath where I was reunited with joggers and dog walkers. I was stuck in this nervous state, but still so beyond happy to see other people. I tried to make as many of them aware as I could, and the whole situation was ultimately reported. I got home safely by catching a bus into town. They were rare on that side of the county, but I managed, thankfully. I felt lucky, yet really detached and uncomfortable. The area was investigated by police, but it was so deep in the woods, I don't know how much they covered. As of yet, nothing has been reported since, and nobody nor anything has been found. I now avoid that area, and don't plan on going too far off the beaten track on my own again. I still think about this experience. It's still vivid in my mind, and absolutely terrifying to me.
Yeah, that was weird. Not gonna lie. Just, yeah.
This happened years ago, when I was 21. Back then, I was good friends with a guy named Jack, who I met in high school. Both of us grew up with a passion for the outdoors, and so we thought it'd be fun to go on a week-long backpacking trip in the California woods together. We'd done this once before, and I really enjoyed it. I remember looking forward to it. The whole trip started off going well, but that only lasted till the second night. It was just starting to get dark, and Jack and I were setting up our tents for the night. when we began to hear the distant sound of leaves crunching under multiple pairs of footsteps. We were pretty deep in the forest, but running into other campers wasn't completely unheard of, just, I guess, a bit of a rare occurrence. Eventually, 3 guys came into view. They didn't really look like campers. They didn't even have backpacks or anything.
Wow.
I thought it was kind of weird to be wandering around the forest this late, but I didn't think much of it. They gave us a somewhat friendly greeting, and we gave one back. They then asked us if we were camping here tonight, which, obviously, we were in the process of setting up our tents and had the rest of our stuff all laid out. We politely said yeah, and asked if that was a problem. We wanted to make sure we weren't on someone's private property, or, just generally in a place we're not supposed to be. They replied saying no, and just kind of walked off. The whole encounter was odd, but Jack didn't think so. He pointed out how they were most likely just hunters in the area, as all of them were armed, something I myself didn't notice. Cut to a few hours later, and Jack and I were now asleep in our respective tents. This was around the time I woke up to the sound of yelling, like multiple voices shouting in the distance. I yelled out to Jack to see if he was awake. He was, and was just as confused as I was. It was 2 a.m. when this happened.
Oh, nah.
Our conversation was then interrupted by multiple gunshots. They honestly sounded like they were getting closer. I asked Jack if he thought that whoever these people were just hunting. He responded saying,
No, dude, there's no way they're hunting this late. I think we should go.
My heart started to race, now realizing the reality of the situation we were in. We both unzipped our tents, grabbed only our bare necessities, and started hastily moving west. We moved for maybe half an hour before stopping. The yelling and gunshots were now barely audible, although they were persistent, continuing off and on up until sunrise. All night, we basically just sat there listening to them, both wide awake from a mixture of fear and adrenaline. When the sun finally rose, we discussed what to do next. Ultimately, we decided we would wait until noon before heading back to our campsite. The plan was to then quickly pack up all of our stuff and make the trek back to our cars, cutting our trip 5 days short. Fast forward to noon, and we started cautiously heading back. When we arrived, the sight we were met with was nothing short of horrifying. Our campsite had been completely ransacked.
Dang.
Almost all of our stuff had been damaged, which this is thousands of dollars in equipment we're talking about. But most disturbing were the bullet holes shot into our tents. You don't have to be that smart to conclude that these people had genuinely tried to kill us. Further supporting this theory is the fact that nothing was actually stolen from our campsite. It was all just damaged. Though, as far as who did this, we don't know. The only people we can really pin as suspects are the 3 people that walked up to us as we were building our tents. But this begs the question, why? Why would they do this? The whole experience has left us with more questions than answers. Nothing about it makes much sense, but I know I myself just feel lucky to be alive. In the end, we ended up quickly salvaging all the equipment we could and made the trek back to our cars. Nowadays, I don't camp nearly as much as I used to.
Better be glad you make it out there alive.
I'm 25, and ever since I was young, I've been into hiking. Now, I get hiking isn't all that appealing to most people, but because of where I live, it's pretty easy to get into.
Looks similar.
You don't have to travel all that far for a pretty stunning scenic view. I try to find a new trail to hike every weekend. Typically, I'll hike alone, so I always keep a knife in my backpack for protection against the wildlife, should it ever come to that.
Nah.
Though, in all my years of hiking, I've never once had to actually use it. In fact, I've never run into any dangerous situation while hiking. Well, at least up until a few days ago. I was driving to a heavily forested hiking trail I'd never been to before. Now, I hike in the afternoon, and this happened around the time of year where the days were starting to get shorter. In other words, the sun was setting earlier and earlier each day. This was a key detail that I had completely forgotten about prior to leaving. Only after I started driving to the place did I realize it would be completely dark outside before I would even be able to finish my hike.
Right.
A decision I still regret making is deciding to do the hike anyway. I got a bad feeling about it right when I started. Fast forward a few hours, and I was now about 85% finished with the route I picked out. By this point, it was almost completely dark. I had a flashlight, but still, the whole scene was pretty eerie. This portion of the trail was deep in the forest. It was so dense with trees that the moonlight could barely even find its way through.
Wow. See, I wouldn't be doing it like that right there. Come on now. You can't see nothing. You can't see anything. I don't care where I'm at. I don't care if I'm in the city or I don't care wherever I'm at. If I see a park that look like that, ain't no way. You should be out of there before dark anyway. But come on now, you can't even see nothing.
Don't get me wrong, beautiful scenery in the day, but alone at night, nothing short of disturbing. It was then when I was really starting to regret my decision of carrying out the hike.
Right.
That's when I saw a light up ahead on the trail. As soon as I shined my flashlight in its direction, it immediately got turned off. I didn't know what it was, but I couldn't exactly turn back, so I was pretty much forced to go directly towards where it had been. In the back of my mind, I knew the chances of it being another hiker in the dark were slim to none. Eventually, I reached where the light came from. There was no one. Instead, there was a large duffel bag lying on the ground. I began scanning the trees with my flashlight. That's when a large, probably 6.5-foot man stepped out from behind one of the trees. My body completely froze up. There I stood like a deer in headlights, shining my light on the guy. He then slowly revealed a machete from behind his back. Seeing this, I started running for my life, down the trail and in the direction of my car. I looked behind me, and the guy was chasing me. I dropped my backpack so I could run faster. When I finally reached a clearing in the forest and could see my car, still sprinting, I grabbed my keys from my pocket and unlocked it. I got inside, locked the doors, and had the engine on in less than 5 seconds. However, the guy was still behind me and was able to completely slash one of my back tires before I could drive off. I drove on an almost completely flat tire for the next 5 miles back to my house.
At least you drove.
Right as I pulled into my driveway, I called the police and reported the man. Although, I have no idea if he was found. Quite frankly, I have no idea if the police even searched for him. A part of me wants to go back to retrieve my backpack, which contains hundreds of dollars in equipment. But there's no way I can bring myself to do it. Plus, there's no guarantee it's still even there. For all I know, the guy went back and took it. I still don't know what I stumbled upon that night. This was by far the scariest experience I've ever had, and the closest I've ever felt to death.
See? You should have known. Because, like, if it was getting dark early, like, you should have known, like, yeah, you can hike, but like, I wouldn't prefer hiking anyway, because I don't really like hiking or camping, because it's just creepy to me. Like, it really is creepy to me. But, you should have said, like, nah, it's getting too dark. Let me leave. Let me go back to the trailer. Let me go back to the cabin. At least a cabin would be, like, you know what I mean? Less creepier. But then a tent and you out there hiking by yourself in the dark. Like, come on now. Anybody could be out there. And there's weirdos out there, especially at the park. That's what I'm saying, guys. Like, at the parks and all. These stories were sus, though. But, yeah. I'm just saying, though. Should have known. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, by the way. Smash that like button. I'm going to do a lot of editing, so I have more equipment now. So see you guys in the next video. And keep it cool, keep it classy, and stay positive. And more content coming out. Peace.